Hi, it's MUSOLINI, the Merchant of Success. Welcome. And we are going to go through to this Persuasion Method 101. Persuasion is at the core of who we are. When I look back, by the way, before we jump in, just to give you perspective, is that I'm from a very humble background and whose story I hope to share with you later, but not now, in the emails and on Facebook and all that. But the quick snapshot is I'm from a very humble background, reached here, got to Kampala when I was about 18 years old while going to the university. The most influential person I knew was my three uncles who were selling second-hand shoes, market, a low-end market. And the most educated had only 7 years of schooling. That was the most educated in the whole clan, so to speak. And yet I later discovered that for me to get what I want in life is I need to find a way to work on my confidence and self-esteem, which we'll talk about later in one of the sessions. I needed to figure out a way to interact with people. I needed to find a way to persuade people to say yes to whether products, services, or ideas, to be able to connect. And fast track to today, I have networks across the world, and one of those core secrets is persuasion. You have to learn how to persuade people. And I'm going to give you two frameworks that you'll find very useful when you're thinking about persuasion. So when we talk about these definitions, we say, that persuasion is the art of getting people to do things that are in their own best interest that also benefit you. Again, that's core, because persuasion is not just about tricking people into getting into something and it only benefits you. That's not what we are talking about. We are talking about you finding that place where it's a win-win. For example, you're giving me I convinced you, I persuaded you to join me here to be present, and I'm giving you value. So you're spending your time and money, and I'm sharing with you wisdom that will save you and give you more time and money and wisdom down the road. So it's a win-win. Now, but then what's the difference between persuasion and manipulation? Manipulation is to make someone think you act and do something that is against their liking or their interests. So if you do something that only wins you, I mean that benefits you and yet does not benefit the other party, then that's manipulation. And the intention here is for us to be looking at ways. So all of us, if we may mute, just a moment, noticing someone had forgotten to unmute. Yeah. So the key thing is manipulation is not, first of all, manipulation is not sustainable. My belief is in life, you get what you put out there. If you put out manipulative stuff, sooner rather than later, it catches up with you. So my encouragement to you is you need to think about the persuasion I'm teaching you is something that benefits the other party also, so that it doesn't only benefit you. Because if it only benefits you and it hurts the other person, then you need to be aware or pay attention to that, such that it is indeed a win-win, because that's the persuasion we are focusing on. All right, let's continue. So why persuasion? I had given you a hint from my personal story, but let's talk about why persuasion. Number one is it gives you influence and power. You're able to get people to say yes. It gives you power is the capacity to influence decisions. And when you do that, when you have the capacity to influence people, when you have the capacity to persuade people, and they act in ways that are beneficial to them and of course yourself, then that alone is a big advantage. The other one is you're able to sell with ease. I'll tell you, I've been self-employed since September 2003. So September 2003, you count the years. And I'll tell you, I've had to depend on selling. So to sell my coaching services, human resource consulting services, or training services. So when you're able to persuade, then you can sell with ease. When you don't know, then it becomes a challenge. The other key is impact. What I mean by that, let me give you a practical example. Part of what I do is coaching, and of course, I have to influence people, I have to persuade people towards new ways of being. I've had to persuade people, influence people to move away from drugs, living a full life. I've moved people from lacking confidence to being super confident. I've moved people from being fearful to feeling powerful. I've moved people, or I've had to convince someone to give me airtime to be on TV and impact millions of people. So when you're able to persuade, you create impact. I know some of us in non-for-profit organizations, some of us are in for-profit organizations. Hey, you're creating impact, but guess what? You see, as an organization, you're there to change behavior, and to change behavior, you have to know what are the methodologies you can use to persuade people. The other one, of course, is career growth. What I mean by that is, can you convince someone that you deserve a higher job or a better job for that matter? So, and when we say career growth, for example, if people find, I'll give you an example. There's a certain organization and they were struggling to get a partner on board, because this other partner, sort of in quotes, not in quotes, a partner really, was quite a hard nut to break. And yet in the team, they had someone who was able to interact with this other party. In other words, this other person was able to influence this other partner. In the end, they ended up giving that role to that person, and he succeeded to get this partner on board, which also meant more money for the organization. Now, of course, it means that for such a character, they became valuable in the eyes of the employer. So when we say influence, if, for example, you're able to get funds, you're able to, I saw one of us said that you'd want to know how to convince organizations to give you money for your non-for-profit. If you're able to do that, then you all of a sudden become very valuable. If you're the kind that can influence decision makers to change certain policies or procedures, then you all of a sudden become very valuable. If you're the kind on the staff team that can convince the MD or the CEO to offer certain things, then in the eyes of those staff members, boom, you become super valuable. And of course, you're exposing yourself. You're making yourself very visible in front of your CEO or MD. Now, this is the first mode I want to give you, which we call the 3 pillars of persuasion. And these are classics. And then I will show you how you can use them in real life or in action. The first pillar is the ethos, and that's about your credibility and character. When I'm teaching communications, I usually tell people that, you cannot differentiate or you cannot negate the value of the messenger from the message. Okay. 2 people will say exactly the same thing, and yet one will be believed and one will not. Why? Because of someone's level of credibility and character. Okay. The second one is logos. Logos is really about logic, the reason, the objectivity. And so when you're persuading, you need to think about the proper reasoning. You need to think about the logical flow of your thoughts. Of course, I'm going to, and then lastly is the pathos. Pathos is the feelings, emotions, and identity with something. Now, please write this one down. This is a classic in sales, that people buy with emotion and then justify with logic. So you move them, they take action based on emotions, and later they justify with logic. So this is key for you to understand, in that you need both. How many of us, just to confirm, how many of us you've ever gone somewhere, you find yourself saying yes to something or buying something, and you have no clear idea the logic behind what you did. And then after you had bought or said yes to something, Then you started finding all the reasons why the action you took was a good one. If that has ever happened to you, type the word yes, if it has ever happened to you. Let's break this one down. So here is how you can implement this. Now, when we talk about the ethos, or in other words, your credibility, you need to identify a minimum of 3 things that give you authority on the subject matter. For example, you need to think about your past experience, your education, the results you've attained, where you've seen it working in your own life. So when you do that, when you package that, because sometimes when you do these things, when you are persuading someone, they want to know, why should I believe you? So always remember that. Why should you be believed? Or how can you increase your credibility or believability? So you always need that. For example, you heard me say, and sometimes you can say these things in passing, not directly to say, see how great I am. Because, for example, if I tell you, look, I've been self-employed since September 2003, then and I tell you, well, you have to depend on selling or persuading people, then all of a sudden, I'm sure you felt that, oh, okay, this guy must be knowing something about persuading. Otherwise, he wouldn't be self-employed for all these years. Okay, does that make sense? First of all, let me know if that makes sense, what I've just said. By me, to look credible, I don't necessarily mean you just going there and bragging left, right, and oh, you guys see how great I am and all this. No, you can slide it in indirectly. So what are those things you can do? And that also means, for example, your social media pages, you can tell stories that demonstrate your past experience, your education, the results, and all that. Then the pathos, the emotions, you need to identify your recipient's emotions that you can use to sell or to convince them. It could be fear, it could be anger, it could be happiness, it could be anxiety. And later in the second model, I'll be showing you how to discover these things. So again, when we say pathos, fears, again, just to give you perspective here, which you can write down, that I learned many years ago, shortly after university, I learned it from Tony Robbins. He said that people are moved by 2 emotions: to avoid pain and to gain pleasure. Okay, so when you're thinking about emotions, think about those. And here is a quick exercise for you. Which one do you think motivates people the most? Pain or pleasure? Type in the chat box. What moves people the most? Pain or pleasure? Okay. So typically people are more motivated to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. So that means when you're communicating, you need to blend in the two, and then I'll show you how. So just be aware of that. Now, because I'm very positive, at least that's what I've built myself to be over the years, is I thought that pleasure is more exciting. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone responds to the fear or pain, so to speak. I'm saying the majority of the people and majority of the time, people are more motivated to respond to the fear or the pain, so to speak. To avoid pain, I beg your pardon. Then logos is really the logic, reason why this is. If you take this, you will benefit this. If you don't take this, this is what you lose. What it means to you is this. For example, let's just suppose I saw one of us will talk about funding proposals. That's one of the things you want to learn. So look, if you sponsor us, then you would have been part of this organization that is transforming girls to become successful women. And if you do not support us, then in the end, you will have hundreds of thousands of girls that become destitutes and forget the dream of their life. But ultimately, what this means to you is you will be part of this vision and dream that transforms lives. And every dollar you spend, you're transforming a life out there. Okay? Does that make sense? If it makes sense, please say sense. If not, just say no. What I've just explained to you, showing you the logic, how you pull all these together and then you bring in the logic. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Here is an example. Ethos. So here you want to show credibility. Let's say let's assume it's about farming. So I've been into farming business for the last 10 years. I've designed farming methods that have helped over 50 farmers to harvest big. I own over 3 farms where I rear cows, sheep, and chicken. You could even add which generate $10,000 a month in profit. My methods are so easy to apply, and anyone without farming experience can easily grasp and implement them within 5 weeks or less. Okay, now that's credibility. Now the emotion, you say you add, okay, you see, farmers keep losing their money through bad farming methods, and they have sleepless nights in the process. The issue is they are choking on debt due to uncleared loans because of bad farming methods that they had. And ultimately, see, people are struggling to plan for their retirement through farming because of not knowing what exactly to do. And one source of income which has many people to work without realizing a breakthrough, one source of income has made people to work without realizing a breakthrough in their lives. So they lack different forms of income, sources of income. Now, the truth is the methods I teach will increase your profit margins by at least 25% within 12 months or less. You'll be able to do profitable urban farming and supplement your farms. And you begin your retirement planning through investing in farming that is easy to understand, implement, and requires minimal energy from your part and minimal supervision if you follow the methods that I will show you. Let's talk about the 5-step model of persuasion mastery. So I've given you a classic. Now I'm going to give you another model so that then you can figure out what works best for you. Okay. The 5 steps is, number 1 is you need to establish the foundation. And when we say foundation, the first thing we need to ask, who is the audience? Who am I going to persuade? Is it farmers? Is it teachers? Is it your MD? Is it staff members? Who is the audience? And then this is a very, very critical point because I told you that people they want to avoid pain and gain pleasure. So you need to ask yourself ahead of time, what are their pains? What are their pleasure points? Now, one of the ways you could do this, by the way, is you could ask people if there is a way to do a survey or talk to people quietly or stealthily, not stealthily, but in a subtle way. So what gives you sleepless nights? By the way, let me give you some quick questions I learned in marketing that would be very helpful for you, which you can write down. You could ask to discover people's pains. You start by asking, okay, what gives you sleepless nights? What are you most fearful of? What concerns you the most? In blank, it could be business, it could be their career. That's about asking about their pain. You ask about their concerns, their fears, their, what gives them sleepless nights. And then on the pleasure, you could ask them, all right, if we were to solve this problem, what would it give you? What are your dreams? What are you looking for? What are you looking forward to in the next 5 to 10 years? So, and then you ask, okay, and what would that ultimately give you? So you dig deep to know what would please them. That's how you get to their pleasure points. And then next, when you're thinking through this, so you write all those things down. Then next, you ask yourself, what is it that you want them to do? The purpose. So when I'm teaching communication, and I've seen some of my clients and who have who are part of my masterminds, Succeeding Daily Mastermind and Executive Communication Masterminds, this is something I go a little deeper. But when we say purpose, I really mean what do you want people to think, feel, and do at the end of the day when you're done? What is it that you want them to think, feel, and do? What's the purpose? So the purpose could be, for example, that you want them to join this movement that you're part of. Your purpose could be that you want them to buy something. Your purpose could be that by the end of your engagement or meeting, that they have signed a petition. By the end of this meeting or conversation, that they have started committing 2 hours a day to their farming. Okay, so you need to be clear on that, because when you're not clear, then your mind will have nothing to latch onto to work towards to. So you need to know that this is the signpost that I'm heading to, and then all these tools are aiming for you to get there where you want to go. Then you need to ask yourself, why is this important to you? Because you also need to be, number one, motivated. Number two, you also need to motivate the other party you will be talking to. Why is this idea or this proposal very important for them to consider? Then the other thing you need to ask yourself, how are you going to pass on this message? Is it through email? So now we are talking about modality or medium. Is it better on phone? Is it better on email? Is it better face-to-face? What's that? So this is how you create a foundation before you start persuading. Again, notice here, we haven't even started talking to the person or group of people. You're thinking through all this. Then the second point is to say, okay, then you need to build your social proof. Show where your suggestions have worked. Then give testimonials and recommendations. So if there's someone else who has worked well, you noticed, for example, on my sales page, not sales page, the squeeze page where you entered your name and email, I put there Pamela Natamba, who is a partner at PwC, because since she talked about me in public, I could utilize that. She's an amazing lady. And, I put that there to say, hey, because she recommends me, boom, I put it there. Also, that's social proof. Give examples of success. So when you're thinking through about social proof, you need to ask yourself, okay, where has this worked that I can give an example? For example, I will tell you, recently I was doing a program on sales. It was a 90 days sales program, and one of the participants was telling me how his sales results had skyrocketed through the roof. That's an example. So what are those things that you can do? What are those things that you can put together to show that you're the real deal? Okay. Again, now this is related to the credibility we talked about in the first 3-part model. So this one is a little wider and deeper. It has more steps. Then next is step 3 is that you need to give simple and clear hows. Number 1, give a concrete strategy. Number 2, use a step-by-step method of explanation. You notice I'm taking you through steps myself. So I'm preaching, I'm asking you to do what I'm doing. I'm not just giving you a bunch of ideas. I'm giving you steps. Say, okay, think through this, the logic, the credibility, then the emotions. And now here we're saying, okay, have the foundation. And then once you're done with the foundation, then you need to think about the credibility or the social proof. Then you also need to think about the hows. So people understand things when you go step by step rather than giving a jumbled up piece of ideas. So when I was starting out in my career, what I'm doing now as a speaker, as a motivational speaker, as a coach, I would give people a bunch of ideas and fine, they would feel better. Then I later discovered that it makes more sense when you go step by step. Next is to build models that are easily chunkable. So again, when you build frameworks, when you're persuading people or when you're communicating something, then it is much better to consume, again, when it is just a bunch of ideas all over the place. So you notice I gave you a model, a 3-step model. Now I'm giving you a 5-step model. So when I give you 5 steps, it's much easier to consume than giving you 25 tips. Like 25 tips, how am I going to consume that? So then explain in the simplest language possible. And by the way, in case there's something I say that you feel is not clear to you, that you're not understanding, at the end, I'm going to open it up for Q&A, of course. So then, for goodness sake, please ask. So that, because part of my job is to make sure that things are easy. But I will tell you, for example, if some of you have been reading my articles, I've had people who are at primary level. If you're in the international curriculum, people who are below grade 12, grade 12, who are below grade, like grade 7, going through this stuff, and then they say, oh, I read your things. I'm like, okay, this 10-year-old, this 11-year-old understands my stuff. So when you're communicating, here is a rule of thumb in terms of language for you to write it down, and that is communicate to a 10 to 12-year-old when you're communicating. Sometimes we assume that what is easy to you is not easy for everyone, because some people assume that, and that's not accurate. Step 4, think about the benefits. If you do this, this is how you will benefit. If you don't do this, the dangers are this. And you need to do it now because of this. So, some of us, I explained the benefits on the squeeze page, if you recall. But, you get this stuff, you attend for free. Now, why do you need to do it now? Well, if you miss the live sessions, the recordings, you have to pay. That was my reason for now. But guess what? Remember again, it's beneficial to all of us. It's persuasion, not manipulation, remember? So you need to think through not only the steps, but the benefits. And then step 5, the action points. What you're going to do is this. So what I'm asking you to do is blank. So you need to communicate that. You need to be clear about what you're proposing people to do. And you need to talk about when you start and finish. So say you need to start by Monday and end by Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever that timeline is. And you mention and so is responsible. Now, let's assume you're a manager, and I know we have a couple of leaders here. So once you've persuaded, or once you've made your presentation, gone through all these steps I've shown you, then you say, okay, this is what we are going to do. We are going to build this other house, and we need to make sure that we start 1st of September, and we have to be done by 20th of December, so that Christmas finds us all set, so that we can celebrate in that house. In fact, we will have a Christmas celebration there. And Joan, you're responsible for bill of quantities. James, you'll be responsible for securing the architect. And John will take the lead on the construction. And of course, guess who? Jeanette will be responsible for the finishing, and Ethan, you'll be responsible for the party to celebrate. So now we know what we are going to do. We know the starting and finishing date, and then we know who's responsible. So we've cleared all through the steps, okay? So let's talk about how to apply this then. Come on. So how can you use the 5-step model then? Number 1, to establish the foundation. So you can think through, and you say, as an example, you say, look, I want to target corporates who want to establish secondary income, and they are faced with poor income or low income. So you've established that foundation, first of all. That's step 1. Step 2, you build social proof. Say, I've so far helped 50 people to start farming projects, and 46 have excelled. I don't know what the percentage numbers those are, but that is more than 90% success rate. Okay, I have an over 90% success rate. So with social proof, for example, sometimes when I'm selling the oral interview package, I tell people and say, look, on average, I have a 70% success rate. For every 7 out of 10 people I coach, they land their dream jobs. People are like, oh, wow, that's social proof. So you need to think about the numbers. Social proof, again, may not be the, actually, could be the experience. I've been in farming for the last, again, we are keeping with the farming examples that I show you how you can build how the two models, how you could use the two models, and I'm giving you two different formats. Okay. So you could talk about, when we say social proof also, it could be the result, apart from helping people, it could be what you've generated yourselves. Say, look, I started with $1,000 3 years ago, and now I generate $10,000 a month. Next is simple and clear how, okay? So now the way we do this is about purchasing backyard farming equipment. Step 2 is you have to add black soil and wait for 1 week. And number 3 is you start with vegetables, because with vegetables, some of them in as little as 2 weeks, you're able to harvest, and then you start earning right away. And then you say, and guess what? Most people fail with vegetables because they don't know the methodology. They say it's not as profitable, but I've found a way on how you can do this at 50% less cost, which increases your profits by 50%. And I have a 5-step model on how to actually do that. Okay, so, and which we'll go through once we start the program. All right. And then the benefits. And you see the beauty with us focusing on vegetables for a start to get quick income is that early harvests. And early harvests, not only are they early harvests, I beg your pardon, they are affordable, and you get quick results, because why wait for 14 years when you can earn money in 14 days? And in 14 days, you have extra cash. And guess what? That extra cash you can use to take care of the home bills. You can use that extra cash, take care of school fees. You can use that extra cash, take care of your communications, to buy data. I mean, we are living in times where we need as much data as possible. And that other secondary income you can do in your backyard, just 1 hour a day, which comes to about 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours a week, even 30 minutes are enough for you. And then boom, you start earning that extra cash of anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month, a little extra, just spending 30 to 60 minutes a day. Now, the action plan is, if you are to move forward, is you need to secure 1 million shillings. You need to buy at least 10 sacks. And once you get those 10 sacks, fill them with black soil. And once you fill them with black soil, you wait for a week. And then next we plant. And once this program kicks off, I show you how to actually plant to get the best results possible. And why should you start now? You should start now because the rains are about to come. And if you miss this rainy season, then it means you have to wait for another 6 months. So if you want to secure your spot in, just call this number, 0772936361. All right, now let's talk about executing the lessons through the MSM approach or model framework that I've thought about the last couple of years. And that is because what I want to give you is not just some ideas to implement, it's also how to make sure that these ideas become a part of you. Number one, the first M is really your mindset. And if you don't have the right mindset, you'll struggle. One of those mindsets that I found very useful that I've developed over the years is to think that I am valuable and worthy. Worthy to get a yes, worthy to get that job, worthy to get that business up and running. So you need to think that way, because if you think otherwise, then you will not work towards convincing people. then you will not ask for that pay raise. Then you will not ask for that partner to be a part of your life. The point I'm making is you need to consciously be aware and tell yourself, you know what, that I am worthy, that I am worthy of all these good things. The other key thing to remind yourself is what I am selling is valuable. Now, when I say selling, it's not just about selling a bottle like this. No, it's not just about selling physical things. It could be the idea. Because if you do not believe that the idea you're selling is valuable, then your tone of voice will be weak. Then your words will be tentative, and then people won't believe. You see, I'll tell you, sometimes when I'm teaching and coaching people on the art of public speaking, say, you know, sometimes I have an idea, but some people's ideas are taken and mine are not, and yet ultimately they're the same. Well, guess what, my friend? You could have said that idea in a tentative manner. You did not believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, people won't believe you. So you have to believe that the idea that not only are you valuable, but also the idea you're selling is valuable. The third tip, which is very, very crucial, is I want it, but I'm not desperate. Now, this is a challenging mindset to adopt, for example, when you don't have money in your pocket and you want someone to buy. So I recall when I was starting out as a self-employed person, by the way, that's not also a good model to adopt. It's better to call yourself a business owner rather than self-employed. So that's something that I've been working at eradicating out of my vocabulary. So call yourself a business owner, not self-employed, because self-employed means you bought for yourself another job. So I would find when I didn't have a job, for example, then not a job, but money in my pocket, then I would be like calling people nonstop and saying, please, please buy. And then I discovered that, you know, when you're in that desperate mode, people run away from you. So the trick is to, at least on the outside, pretend as if you have all the money, even when you don't have it in your pocket. You act as if. Don't put people under so much pressure. You're looking for a job, you're looking for a promotion. Don't say, please, this thing means so much to me. Even my family would be so happy. And I mean, if my children, if you don't promote me, even my children will be disappointed by me. And my wife or husband will even abuse me that I'm not worthy. Really, I have to get this. No, that won't sell it. Ask for it. Say and share why it is important for you, why it's important and how they would benefit. But looking desperate, no. All right. So Goretti says sometimes the emotions don't hide. Yeah, so again, it comes out of training. Yes, sometimes they don't. And through training, you can, as much as possible, not appear so desperate indeed. What I mean by that is you act cool and calm. You know, yeah, this would be very useful for you because this is what it can do for you. And most importantly, by the one of the other techniques to not appear so desperate is focus on the other party. What do they want? Sell them on that. So once you get out of your head and you focus on the other person, then you're selling them to the benefits in terms of how they will benefit. And then the desperate you will quieten, so to speak. Next is to ask, how do I give more value than what I'm asking for? So when I'm standing here, I want to make sure that I am giving more than I'm going to get back. Whether you're attending this live session or whether you're going to pay for it, I want to make sure that I give you more than what I'm asking for. So if, for example, if you're asking for a pay raise, ask yourself, are you really giving 5 to 10 times more than what you're being paid for? Or can you figure out a way to offer that if you're not offering it yet? And then you ask, say, look, I'm bringing in $100,000 a month. So I really feel I am worthy of at least $5,000 of that per month. Yeah, I just need 5% of what I'm bringing in. Then someone might listen. Say, before I joined this company, When I joined this company, I increased the revenue by an extra $100,000 per month, which accounts to $50,000 in profit per month. Therefore, I feel I deserve that $5,000, just 10% of that extra profits I'm bringing in. See, someone will listen to you. Next, strategy. This is very important when you're thinking about persuasion. I told you about the second letter is S, strategy. Number one is managing your state. What do I mean by managing your state? For example, you have to stay calm, be happy, be energetic. Managing your state could also mean, have ample sleep before you're going for that big deal that you're aiming for or to achieve or to hit. So you need to think about these ideas piece by piece, because then it is going to affect the results that you're going to get in real life. So you need to think about managing your state. And where it says that, wow, keeping cool. Yeah, coolness and calmness. Let's remember this. What you feel is what the other party will feel. If you're anxious, the other party becomes anxious. Again, this is a very important segment I'm sharing with you, because if I give you frameworks and then you deliver those frameworks in the wrong state, or you have the wrong strategy, or you're desperate, then they won't work. See, that's where people miss the boat. So managing yourself, being positive, knowing that things will work out. Okay. So the first strategy is you managing your state. How are you feeling? Have to be happy when I'm engaging with you, because if I'm not happy, then you'll be, you will not stay here longer. So I have to manage my state. Number two is influencing your target state. So when I say your target, meaning the person you're talking to, you need to find out, are they in a happy state? If they are not happy, you may find a way to tell a happy story. To manage a target state. That's why some people, for example, if they're going to close a big deal, they will take the person in a fancy restaurant. Why? They are managing the person's state. When I say state, it is about how the other person is feeling. Number three is rapport. Rapport means you need to create that connection with the other party. If there is no connection, then there won't be influence. So you need to, so what are some of the things you can do to boost the rapport between you and the other party? Number one, find commonality. For example, you could all be interested in farming as an example. Number two, share your personal story so that they get to know who you are. Number three, pay attention to their language. What language are they using? And then if you use the same language, not exact words, but a related language, then they will feel more comfortable. Next, understanding your target market to stakeholder, their motivators, their fears, their dreams, their concerns. Go online, read about them, see what they subscribe to, visit their social media pages, get to know what they are into, what do they love? Do they love family? Do they love exercise? Do they love sports? Then you might find what they are dreaming about. Talk to their friends. And now, the other key thing though is if you have a relationship with them, of course you can ask them directly. Just before we start, I'm just curious, what do you dream? What do you dream of having? What are your concerns, the fears? And I talked about that earlier. And then then once you have all these, the next key thing is to connect your product or idea or service to their motivators. Meaning your idea, product, or service should be able to help them realize their dreams or minimize their fears or address their concerns. Once you do that, then boom, they are going to give you their attention. So the key thing is not to sell your thing. The key thing is to sell them what they want and show them how what you have connects or solves what they are looking for. This is a key strategic idea for you to and mindset to have. Okay. If you miss that, then for whatever you're influencing people to, then they won't. I'll give you an example. And these ideas work even at family level. So my daughter loves cartoons. They watch in the evening. And before they watch, there are certain things they have to do. One of those is to do runs around the house, and the other one is to do some affirmations. So I usually tell them, look, if you really want to watch your cartoon, then make sure you finish your affirmations and your runs quickly. Then you will have more time with your cartoons. So there's something I want them to be fit. I want them to have a positive tape running in their mind. They don't understand their value yet, but I also know that they want to be able to watch their cartoons. So I connect them finishing their runs or doing their affirmations with watching cartoon. Then I don't need to threaten them and hey, you do you know me? No, you don't need that. Know what the person wants, connect it with what you want, and it's a win-win. Guess what? She's happy watching cartoon. I'm happy her doing her exercise and doing affirmations. So that's the key. You connect. So these ideas I'm sharing with you, they work also in your personal life. Then the last M is mastery. So what are those things you need to pay attention to become a great persuader? Number one is managing your state, of course. I've talked about that. Keep, oops, sorry. I made a mistake. Just give me 1 minute. Just apologies. First of all, is this making sense so far, what I've just shared with you? If it makes sense, just type the word, type in the chat box if it is making sense to you. Let me see, I need to pause does this make sense to you? Now, step 3 is not the step 3, but the third M in the model, the MSM model, is mastery. And number 1 is practice. So find ways to go through this content over and over again, revise your notes, or go through the recording as often as possible. Next is find a partner to work with. So you can get a partner to role play these ideas, and even get a recorder. You can record yourself on phone. Say, you know what? I want you to act as if you're my MD, see if I can convince you to give me a promotion. Or I want you to act as if you're a customer, and I want you to see if I'm persuasive enough for you to give me money. I want you to role play as if you're a donor, and I want you to see if I'm able to persuade you as someone who is going to give me money. The cool thing also why you should also record these things in terms of, so you can use the recorder for practice during the practice session, because you can record it and then listen to it again. Then number 2, for a partner, you can also record it such that you get to know what was going on exactly. Number 3 is set goals. When I say set goals, you can set a goal, for example, say I'm going to read a book about influence and persuasion once a month or every quarter. If you're a big time reader, you can do monthly. And when I say persuasion, it's not just about influence and persuasion. Read books about sales and marketing, especially sales and marketing, because then they are the ultimate persuaders. Next is journal. Journal. So that okay, you know what, I did this and this worked. I did this and it didn't work. So when you do all these things, then amazing things happen. Then you'll find yourself truly making things go to a much, much higher level. All right? Cool. Then what I want you to think about is, what did you find most useful in this presentation, and how are you going to implement the lessons moving forward? Okay. Please, this is what I want you to do. I'm going to send you into